Welcome back everybody once again to today's episode of DIY investing. I've recently been thinking a lot about what's exactly going to happen with some of these alts. Many people are on the fence about alts being completely dead in this time, with Bitcoin going up and continuing to paint higher highs. Bulls are getting very euphoric, and a lot of people are saying alts are dead and writing them off entirely. Is this the case? And what's going on with Ethereum? Wasn't Ethereum supposed to be the driver of all of this alt value? Currently it's not really moving and it continues to go down. Are altcoins really dead? Is Ethereum dead? I'm going to be covering all of this in today's video. Lots of exciting information to be had in today's video. I'm super excited to share with you my thoughts on Ethereum moving forward and kind of where it puts us in the cycle of all of these alts. If you guys like my videos and want to see more of them, do myself a favor by liking, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more information in the future. If you guys want more top-notch analysis, do yourself a favor and click the invitation link in the description of this video, and there you're going to get access to my Discord server. I'm super excited for what's happening inside of crypto. Even though there's max fear right now and max euphoria at the same time, I do believe great things are headed for us. So let's get right into it. Alright everybody, welcome back. We're going to go jump right in today looking at Ethereum. I really wanted to go over this because obviously this has been the number 2 altcoin for basically the majority of really us seeing all of these altcoins make ridiculous returns on investments. Basically ever since Ethereum came onto the market, it's been number 2. It's been a real driver of value inside of the crypto markets. Many alt seasons start with Ethereum running and leading the way. One thing that we saw that happened just not so long ago was the fact that Litecoin was really that driver of value for this most recent BTC bounce. We saw Ethereum really not doing a whole lot, made a little bit of moves, but for the most part it's been mainly suppressed. And so a lot of people are wondering, is Ethereum dead? Is Ethereum going to continue to drop? And so I wanted to go over and actually analyze Ethereum with you guys, go over and give you guys my thoughts moving forward with this. I do not think Ethereum is dead, no. I think that this is still very much one of the top alts. Obviously it's still number 2 on the total market cap, so I don't think that we're just going to die off. Especially not a coin like Ethereum. You got to think back to how many dApps have been built upon Ethereum's blockchain. Not only that, but just the use case that it has in the world. I know you'll always hear many people talk about and say that it's a shit coin, but really everybody says that about every other coin. So at the end of the day, who can you really trust? At the end of the day, I don't really follow fundamentals. I like to follow based off of charting and analysis. It puts me at a much better strategic advantage. I can see patterns that play out, and for me personally, I'd rather invest my money into something like that until I feel comfortable enough at a point to where I understand the developing technology behind these. I really do not care to really dive into that aspect. I'm looking more just for the technical analysis perspective, and so that's what we're going to go through today and do with Ethereum. So to start off, I wanted to go and analyze the actual Bitcoin chart just because of the fact this is a very solid setup if you are following based off of like a fractal analysis or even just a market cycle. Now, I remember when I first got into crypto would have been back around here. I remember that Ethereum was very talked about because this was right after it made its very first market cycle. And it was also right after the hack that happened where hackers ran off with, I don't even remember how many Ethereum, and that was the major hard fork where they left and then hard forked to Ethereum, and then you have ETC shortly after that. And so this is kind of what happened after. But I remember I was first into cryptocurrency back around this time. I remember seeing Ethereum on Poloniex. Everybody was talking about it back when you still had the troll box and everybody was talking on there, and it was a really fun time. I remember this way back in the day, and I remember with this market cycle I actually had the opportunity to accumulate a bunch of Ethereum right here. Unfortunately, I made quite a bit of money in this initial impulse up, but I did not hold for the majority or in the long haul because I really didn't understand what I was doing at that time. My strategy was much more day trading. I didn't really have like a long-term strategy because at that time I really didn't think much of altcoins. I knew that Bitcoin was going to do its thing, but as far as altcoins, it was really undecided. Nobody really understood exactly what was going to happen. And so I missed out on a significant return had I held, but it's fine because we're having the same opportunity. And that's really what I wanted to cover today and kind of go through and analyze. Now, I'm going to go through and analyze the very, very first market cycle with Ethereum because it continues to play the same story every single cycle. And so for me personally, it's happened twice. No, it's happened 3 times already. So what's to say it's not going to happen once again for a 4th? And that's kind of just the point that I've been at. I've been on Twitter seeing a lot of people saying the alts are dead, especially with Bitcoin's dominance rising. And I really just do not see it. I mean, I've been around for a few of these cycles. I've been able to watch how these kind of progress. And we're just currently in a state of ultimate fear. I mean, Bitcoin's going parabolic right now, heading straight for major resistance. In fact, we're actually at that major resistance at, like 6.5K almost. And a lot of people are very euphoric with their Bitcoin positions. Now, me personally, I'm watching Bitcoin, and there is a possibility we could shoot and break out of the 6K barrier that held us at support for so long. Yeah, I'm not necessarily going to put all my eggs in that basket of belief just because of the fact, think about how many months that support held us in the bear market when we were in that descending triangle. Think about how long we stayed there and consolidated. Now, for me personally, I'm not going to expect that one Bitcoin bounce is just going to bust straight through that. I do think that we're going to get a short-term retrace before we can actually maintain support on top of that. So that's kind of what I'm watching with that. But with that being said, when we do get that retrace, I am expecting a lot of that money to either flood into some of these alts or create a max capitulation event where we do actually start that alt season. But based off of the charts, it looks as if we're very close and at the terminal end of that period. And so I'm personally going to be looking to accumulate more alts, take profits out of your BTC if you haven't already, minimize some of that risk because you don't really know what's going to happen. So let's go through here, guys. Now, this is the cycle that repeats. We have the first market cycle, we have the retrace back down, and then after we have the terminal end of the correction, we start the new cycle back up, followed by a 1, a 3, and then the 3 wave breaks all-time highs, comes back down and retests just about the all-time high of the last move. And then we have the final 5 wave impulse back up. And then, boom, we have the next cycle complete. The cycle high is now finished. And now we retrace. Now, this was when I first got into Ethereum way back in here. I actually didn't really buy my first Ethereum until down here. I was very fortunate to buy super cheap. I really didn't know what the hell I was doing at the time. But sure enough, I just saw this little inverse head and shoulder looking thing and decided to buy. So back here, this takes us to the next cycle. Now, after the retrace, we have the same similar pattern where the terminal end of the correction we sell off, terminal end of the correction we sell off, and then we start the first impulse. Now, this was the first impulse with Ethereum back in 2017. Now, what happens? Now, based off of the last cycle, the 3 wave breaks all-time highs and then retests the high of the last cycle. Does that happen again? Breaks all-time highs, retests the high of the last cycle. Do you see that? And then we go into the 5 wave. Now, this 5 wave was very impulsive because this was also the 3 wave on the dollar chart where we saw prices go extremely parabolic. This was the big ICO craze, and things got very exciting in this time. And now we start the top of the next cycle. So we have the high of that move. We have the same retrace. I mean, even the retraces of the cycles are following the exact same pattern. If I go through and analyze, and I've talked about this on previous videos before, but the cycles stay the same. You have a high of the next move that doesn't quite make it to all-time highs. We top out just short, and then we have a very major, then we have a major ABC correction out of the second high, and I'll go through and analyze that. A, B, C, right? Right. And now we're seeing the exact same market cycle play out with Ethereum. After the cycle high of the second move, we have an A, B, C retrace. Now, really the big reason why I was so bullish on Ethereum in this time is because it reminded me so identically of when I bought my first Ethereum back at $8 in that range. And we just take it back over to here to see that comparison. Now, in the final ABC retrace of the C leg, we get some nice bullish divergence that happens in between the 3 and the 5 waves back down. We see prices hit this support bottom on the RSI and the momentum. We see us bounce and then we make one more lower low, only we make a higher high in price, which is just a classic example of bullish divergence. With this current cycle that we're in, we're seeing the same exact pattern play out. We have the low, and then we make the low on the RSI, and then we make a lower low in price, only we make a higher high in the RSI, on the RSI I should say. And then this is what starts the impulse. Now, if we throw it back to present day, we're basically seeing the exact same accumulation setup. So if we throw on RSI, you can see very obvious bullish divergence between the low of this move and then one more lower low, which takes us into the real capitulation event. Now this obviously to me is a very bullish signal. I remember seeing it back when we did make this lower low. I bought some and day traded this in between and made a little bit of profit on the initial rally up. And so, because this really was the exact same cycle as back here. And now we're seeing basically the same thing, only this time we're retracing and selling off a little bit harder. Now this green support line, this was actually my entry. We're starting to break through that a little bit, but I'm not really too worried about that. I do expect a short-term retrace with Bitcoin. Ethereum on the dollar looks excellent right now, so I'm not really stressing about it. My stop loss is at 10%, which takes us below support, so really I'm in a good position overall, and I'm not really going to stress about that. We get stopped out, we get stopped out. If we do break lower than this low that we had here at about 0.256, that's going to take us back down to these early January lows in 2017, in my opinion. So that would be a pretty major sell-off, only I'm not necessarily putting my eggs in that basket. I'm just watching to see what's going to happen in the now. So anyways, guys, this takes us to present day. Now, based off of the current last two cycles that we've had, and even the third, but this one isn't quite as obvious because this was back when Ethereum was first added. It's a very small market cycle with pretty insignificant amount of money to really look in the analysis of it. But based off of the last cycle we had in 2016 to the terminal end of 2017 to now we're into 2019, this cycle and this cycle are behaving pretty much the same. Now, with that being said, I do expect us to follow a similar pattern. Now, if you guys remember, every time we find the terminal end of the correction after the market cycle, that's what starts our first impulse. Now, if this pattern's going to play out once more, then we've already started the first impulse, and that happened right here. Now, keep in mind, guys, based off of Elliott wave theory, if we retrace 100% of this this low, then that's going to completely invalidate this count, and then that would make me lean to more of a bearish stance where we are going to sweep back down to these 2017 lows that we had back there. But until that happens, I'm still going to be watching for this same market cycle setup to play out. Now, based off of this cycle and based off of the last two cycles, what happens next after the first impulse is the three wave. And the three wave takes us beyond all-time highs, we break that, and then we retrace onto the previous high of the last cycle. And then we have the final five-wave impulse. Now, with this cycle, it's going to be very interesting to see exactly how it's going to play out. This five-wave, keep in mind, this five-wave was very, very extended back in 2017, but that was also during the ICO craze, and that was also during Ethereum's three-wave on the dollar. So is it going to be as likely that we have such an extended five-wave impulse in the next cycle? Probably not, which is why you just have to really kind of just make sure you're taking profits in that time. I do expect this three-wave to take us beyond all-time highs, to come back down and retest. I mean, even if we come in here, we have pretty much the same pattern that plays out every single time. Three-wave impulse, we break out, all-time high, little cup and handle before we go into our five-wave. Same exact setup played out here. Three-wave breaks out, goes all-time high, little cup and handle pattern before we break and go into the five-wave. And so I would assume that we're going to see a very similar thing. Maybe we don't see a cup and handle, but we'll probably see a similar accumulation setup into this four-wave. But this is what I'm watching out for, guys. Based off of this market cycle, we are going to break all-time highs and head higher. The real question is going to be when. Are we going to do it right here, or are we going to have to break through the support and fall to some of these 2017 lows that we saw back here? My personal stance is that we're bullish in this time, because if I throw on the volume indicator, does this look bearish to you? I mean, we currently have more volume in this one wave than we had the entire last cycle combined. So for me personally, that's a very bullish setup. Anytime, one thing you guys got to know is volume precedes price. So if you see a low, very low setup where prices have basically just kind of flatlined, they've hit some significant lows on the market cycle, and you see max volume, continuous volume growing, that's a very bullish sign because volume precedes price, meaning you're going to see volume before you see a real impulsive move as far as price expanding and going into its next cycle. And so for me personally, this is a much more bullish setup than people give it credit for. I think that people are just kind of counting alts out because of the fact they've been bleeding for so long. I mean, guys, you got to think about it. Altcoins have been bleeding since back in 2018, the very start of 2018, we've been bleeding. So over a year and a half's time, we have just been in this steady downtrend for the most part. Alt's not going up. Alt's just basically just getting screwed every single time, everywhere we look. Bitcoin dominance continuing to go up. Bitcoin going up as is with max euphoria throughout the market. So for me personally, it's not surprising that you're seeing a lot of people saying alts are dead, counting out alts entirely. It's something that happens. This is just the emotional market cycle. When you see people really start to count something out, call it dead, that's when you want to be buying. And so for me personally, I'm not going to be listening to anybody else. I'm going to be buying in this time. I have been buying Ethereum, looking to buy some more today with us filling in my entry. I've actually already got some on the exchange, but I'm going to probably add to some of my Coinbase bags. So this is what I wanted to share with you guys. This was the Bitcoin setup, kind of what I'm watching with this. Next, we're going to dive in and look at the dollar because I think that the dollar is more important just because of the fact, like I personally trade dollar charts. I think that they're a little bit more accurate as far as long-term TA goes. And so we're going to dive right in there and take a look. All right, guys, so here we are on the 3-day time frame with Ethereum on the dollar. Now, obviously, this looks like a very nice setup as far as only looking at the volume perspective. More volume coming in this low than we saw the entire last cycle combined. So anytime you see that, guys, I can't stress this enough how important that is to see something like that. When you see such significant volume with prices in a significant low, that is when you want to be buying. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the biggest retard that's going to get completely sold out in this time. But, you know, I really don't think so. So we're gonna watch and see. I'm willing to put myself out there. Win or lose or draw, it's all the same at the end of the day. Manage your risk to reward and you will still profit. So here we are, guys. We're actually going to go through and analyze. So with the cycle in 2016, we saw 1, 3, 5 Elliott wave impulse up, followed by an ABC correction back down. Now, if you guys remember, this was the low of the 2017 before we actually started impulsing, and so right here and right here are virtually the same pattern if you're looking at the Bitcoin chart, and it looks to be basically the same setup overall. Now, once we got in those lows of 2017, that's when we started the next impulse, followed by a 1, a 3, and then a 5 up. Now, something to keep in note, guys, is the top of the 3 wave is actually this wave right here, because this was an ascending triangle. Something that a lot of people miss is the fact that oftentimes what you'll see with these altcoins is anytime you have a massive 1 wave, in this case it's the 1 of the 3, we saw an impulsive 1, a very impulsive 3, and then you see a lot of profit taking into the 5, which is why this 5 doesn't break all-time highs of the 3 wave impulse. It basically just hits that that barrier, and then we retrace into the final 5 wave up. And so the end of the 3 wave was actually right here in the middle of the ascending triangle. And so that's something to keep a note of. Anytime you see a very impulsive 1 and a very impulsive 3, a lot of people seem to think that just because the 1 and the 3 were very impulsive, that means that the 5 wave is going to overextend, which is not necessarily the case. Oftentimes these 5 waves will get a lot of profit taking, and that's exactly what we saw. So it's something to watch out for with whatever cycle that you're trading. I know that it just happened with Binance Bit if you're looking at the dollar. But anyways, guys, I'm getting off topic. Next comes the ABC correction, and then that takes us to current values. Now, something to keep in note, guys, is this looks very bullish to me overall. And I've said that, I'll say it again. we're still maintaining an uptrend, even with Bitcoin doing its thing. We've broken from this resistance that we had here that I was watching, and we've maintained support on that. And we're just kind of consolidating sideways. So for me personally, this really does look to be your last chance to buy Ethereum under $200. I don't think that we're ever going to see this significant of a buying opportunity again. I mean, guys, you have so much volume coming in here, and prices virtually haven't moved. So for me personally, I'm going to bet on that. I'm going to take my chances and say, you know what? The risk to reward looks excellent in this time. I'm going to be adding to my positions and looking to make some profit, because Ethereum, guys, Ethereum was valued at $1,400, I think $50 at its peak, $1,400 at least, $1,400 at its peak, and it's currently worth $173. Meaning, for every $173 or for every one Ethereum you buy, you could potentially make back up to $1,400, and I really think that you will. That's the thing. I do expect Ethereum to break all-time highs. I mean, the all-time highs is about 700% gain, so that's a pretty good return on investment. Not as good as some of these other alts will get you, but you're also buying the number 2 alt that you can kind of count on for consistency. You can count on to kind of lead the way for the alts, and so it's really good long-term hold in my opinion. Now, with all of that being said, guys, this takes us to the next cycle. If we've already broken out of this resistance here, so for me personally, I'm more than bullish on this. Obviously, you guys know my stance with that. And so I am expecting us to go higher up in this next move. Now, with all that being said, where does that take us in the upcoming wave? What's my wave count moving forward? Now, this move from 2015 to 2016 to the bottom at the start of 2017, that was our one wave. And then 2017 to the top of 2018 saw us in the impulsive 3. And now we finished the 4-wave retrace before we go into the final 5-wave up. Now let me go through here. I'm going to hide my waves. Oops. I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. Right. So this is what I'm watching out for. We finished the 1, we finished the 3, we've retraced and finished the 4-wave, and now we're going to be impulsing into the final 5-wave move. Now, how high is this 5-wave going to go? It's yet to be decided yet. We're going to have to watch and see exactly how impulsive these waves get. Something to keep in note, guys, is we had a very nice impulsive 1, we had a very, very impulsive 3, and so you could see an instance where the 5-wave is kind of short-lived, where you see lots of profit taking. Generally, on these longer-term trends, that is what you see. Especially this being like a log scale chart, I would expect us to not have a super extended 5-wave. Now, I think that it's reasonable that we could easily see a $3,000 Ethereum in the next cycle. I think that that's more than likely that we could have that happen. And so from current prices, if you bought today, $3,000 Ethereum takes us to about a 16x return. So a pretty nice return overall. And I do believe that that's something that we could see in this next cycle. But it's just kind of what we have to watch and monitor. We don't exactly know. Keep in mind, guys, this is all speculation. I can just show you kind of what's happening from a technical analysis perspective. And this is what I'm seeing. So I wanted to update you guys with Ethereum moving forward. Is Ethereum dead? No, it is surely not. Is Ethereum going to break all time and go higher? Based off of this cycle, it does look to be the case. And so I'm personally buying. I have been buying in this time. Even though a lot of people are saying that alts are dead, Bitcoin dominance is shooting to the roof. No, I do not think alts are dead. No, Ethereum is not dead. I do believe that this is great buying opportunities, and it will be some of the last great buying opportunities that we're going to experience in 2019 as far as some of these low insignificant levels. With Ethereum being mainly suppressed throughout Bitcoin's major move, I do expect us to find a top with Bitcoin very soon, and once we do find that top, I do expect that money to be flooding into Ethereum. What you can kind of expect, I do think that with Bitcoin finding a top, slamming into resistance that we're at, I think that once Bitcoin really starts to sell off, that money's going to be flooding into Ethereum, and Ethereum's really going to start leading the charge with the alts, and then Ethereum's just going to kind of drag these alts up with it, and then we'll have our alt season, or at least kind of what I'm watching for. So anyways, wanted to give you this update, wanted to keep you guys in the awareness stage of kind of what I'm watching for and how I'm going to be placing my bets and how I'm going to kind of just be watching the market overall as we move forward in this next cycle. So with all that being said, thank you all for the support. If you find this information helpful, if you like my technical analysis, do myself a favor and jump in the Discord. Currently growing very quickly, 91 members. We finally hit that 90 mark. And I'm very excited to see what's happening. Overall, people are getting very excited. Even with some of these low points that we're seeing inside of crypto, you have lots and lots of people jumping in here, posting their analysis. And so I'm very excited for when we do get alt season. I know that there's going to be a ton of new members inside of my Discord. And on top of that, we're going to be experiencing a lot of excited people, a lot of euphoric people that are making a lot of money. So do yourself a favor, jump in here, start discussing with some of us, and share your analysis and thoughts moving forward. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Any questions I can answer, feel free to ask me because I'm always available. So thank you all so much for the support. I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.